Okay, everybody, we're going to get going. Hi, Corinne, I can see you there. Nice to see you. My name is Sarah Tilley, and I'm a primary maths consultant. I'm actually based in London, in Enfield, and I have been a maths consultant for a good decade or so and been in education for double that amount of time. And I actually started in education. I started as an English specialist, and I have an English degree. And it didn't take long to get really excited by maths. I think it's an amazing subject. But I do think I brought some of my love of literacy into my teaching of maths and my appreciation of maths. So welcome to this session on Maths in Story for Maths Week England. So nice to see so many of you have attended, and hopefully you're doing lots of fun things with your children this week. Please, as Andrew said, we're just trying to raise awareness of this brilliant week. So it would be wonderful if you would share your attendance at this event and if you liked it, but you need to see if you like it first. So let me get started. Just to let you know, I have got a Facebook page. It's called Curious Maths. That's kind of the name of my business. I'm all about curiosity, and I think that's a great way to learn. So I've got a Facebook page, and I have actually got a Twitter account, but I keep forgetting to put it on. So I'm on Twitter under Curious Maths as well. So on my Facebook pages, I just put fun activities and maybe links to government materials and just updates, things I find along the way. So there's always plenty of stuff going on there. So if you are on Facebook, you can, and also then you can get in touch with me and ask any questions. So let's think first of all about why teach maths through story. Now I probably don't need to convince you lot because you're here today. But if you're a maths leader and you're planning on talking to your staff about this, or a parent talking to other parents, or even a teacher talking to parents, there's a couple of things that are really worth highlighting. And in this session, I'm going to talk about 6 books. I'm going to try and squeeze 6 books into 40 minutes. And I would love some interactivity. So if there are some things that I haven't thought of, or if you've used the book before and you've got some ideas, let me know. And the same for this. So some of my thinking about why to teach maths, maths through story. So first and foremost, it is fun. And I think that is for pupils and for adults. I really enjoy having a text to bounce ideas off. I enjoy that idea of coming back to something. I think that's so nice. Loads of the maths books that we have really bring some of that maths that we teach them formally alive. So our children understanding how adding money from a story in a book relates to adding money in real life, or anything that they might do. So measuring in a book and then measuring in real life. And it just kind of proves to them that maths is everywhere. That's quite important. What I find is it supports understanding, excuse me, because we've got loads of pictorials, and those pictorials give us clues to the maths. And when we're teaching, we can look at these pictures and we can unpick them. And a lot of the maths books I'm going to show you today the pictures are really important. They provide clues. So if you're talking about a maths idea and you've got some prompts in the book that you're in, like counting the spots, then that really helps. Ofsted talk about children remembering more and helping. It's a very, cognitive overload is a real issue. Our children have had some time off school, so they're not remembering as much as they would have been if they'd been in school full time. And I really think that teaching this way really provides a hook. It's something they might remember. It might be that there's something funny in the book that triggers the thought, and then they might remember the maths they did with it. So again, we're always trying to bring those ideas back. I use maths in story a few different ways. Sometimes I use a book for a whole week, and I teach the book through the week. We read a bit of the story at a time. We do some activities. Sometimes I use math stories just to revise ideas. So it could be that you've done loads of work on place value. And in the spring term, you might think, well, actually, I'm going to get a maths book about place value out so we can revise those ideas. And I sometimes use it to finish a unit of work. It just depends on how much is in the book and how many activities I can draw out of it. And for you as a teacher or as a parent, for me, when I'm working with teachers, it helps provide a template. So if I get a book that's going to last me a week, it's a week full of activity, when I'm planning, those are the conversations I'm having with my team, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get through this book in the week What's it going to look like? And I find that that really helps with planning. So those are the kind of main things for me that I think work when you're teaching maths through story. But most importantly, it does spread the joy. I mean, I don't know very many children who don't like having a book read to them. Some children don't like reading, admittedly, but not many children don't like having a book read to them. Excuse me. So I really like that idea. And because I'm a maths consultant and I literally teach maths all day, every day, I really like getting a book out because it, you know, that connection with the children when you read a story and you share something or get some humour. So those are my kind of why do it points. And in a moment, I'm going to show you some of my favourite books. Now, when Andrew said to me, can you do some of your favourites? I was like, well, how long have I got? And he said 40 minutes. I said 40 hours might be more suitable. So I've had terrible, I must have spent the amount of time I've spent trying to sift through and decide on my final books that I'm going to show you. I have a lot of books that I'm very keen on, okay, but these are some of them. So I've had to filter it through. But before I show you some books, I do want to just talk about 3 books in particular, because in a moment, I'm going to show you 6 books that work in primary school. And I'm going to talk about which year groups I think they'd work in, and maybe give you some ideas about which maths concepts are in there. And then I'm actually going to share some of the story with you, because actually that's what I want this to be about, actually looking at the books, getting a feel for the books, looking at the language, the pictures, giving you, you know, making you think, actually, would that work? Would my class like it? But I have 3 core books that I've already done a lot of work on. So I want to show you these, even though I'm not going to concentrate on them today. Steve Light, an amazing author and illustrator from New York, has made this fantastic book called Have You Seen My Dragon? It is particularly suitable for year 1. It is definitely still appropriate for early years, and it could still be used in year 2. On my YouTube channel, which is Curious Maths, and I've just put underneath, you know, if you do a search Curious Maths, you'll find me. I've already made like a 15-minute video about this book with so many ideas of how you might use it in class. So as much as I would like to be sharing that today, I've had to, I'm just going to remind you that I've already got these ideas for you. Another book that I've already written loads of ideas for is Circumference and All the King's Tens. And this is particularly well suited for year 4, I would say. It would work in year 5 too, and it could be adapted for year 3. And this is all about basically a party, and they're trying to organise their guests, and they organise them into tens and hundreds and thousands. Amazing for place value. Very humorous as well. So there's a video on that. And finally, How Big is a Million? I have also done a video on too. So if you're not familiar with any of those 3 stories, go and have a look at my videos, and I've got lots of ideas for you. And the How Big is a Million is probably suited in many year groups, but I've chosen it for year 5 because the number does go up to 1 million, and that is exactly in line with the year 5 maths curriculum in England. It's a lovely little book about a penguin who wants to find out what 1 million is, and his he goes out on a little walk and tries to find out, and he sees sort of 10 penguins, and he can't find 1 million. And then at the back of the book, it's amazing, you open it up and there's a massive piece of paper with a million stars drawn on it. It's just a wowzer. Kids love it. So I've aimed at year 5, but actually a lot of people tell me they use it in earlier year groups because it's a lovely story. So those are my 3 that I've already done that I wanted to just mention to you, because I don't want to get caught up in talking about those. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a few of my favorites. And during this, if you've seen this book or if you've used this book, I'd absolutely love it if you sort of sent me a message in group chat and tell me what you think of it. Or if it's new to you, say, no, I haven't seen this. I'd like to make it a little bit more interactive if possible. So 10 Little Dinosaurs is a fabulous little book, and it's one in a series. So there's also 10 Little Pirates, and there are 10 Little Princesses. I did cringe a little bit at that, the gender. So I bought 10 dinosaurs to avoid that. So 10 Little Dinosaurs is particularly well suited for early years and probably year 1, because the main maths focus in this story is counting back in ones. That's what the main maths focus is. However, it doesn't have to be the only maths focus. And one of the things I'll be talking to you about as we go along is recognizing that actually there's loads of other stuff on each page that we can unpick. Ah, thank you very much. There's also 10 little bookworms. I hadn't heard of that one. So thank you. Right, so before we start, as I said, counting backwards, but even by looking at the front cover, if you're from early years or year 1 or even year 2, I bet you're looking at this thinking I can see absolutely loads of maths already. So one of the big maths ideas is same and different. So actually, of those 10 dinosaurs, we could ask our children, what's the same about some of these dinosaurs? Well, apart from the fact they're dinosaurs, and children might talk about the dinosaurs with eyelashes being the same. There's some dinosaurs with hair. They might be the same. You could do some sorting and classifying. You could photocopy this and do a bit of sorting and classifying. You could talk about the colours of the dinosaurs. Talk about how they are different. You could look at the patterns on their bodies. You've got circles and stripes and squares and zigzags. You could be talking about all of those types of things. You've got some dinosaurs that look happy and some that don't, look a bit sad, and some that look a bit scary. So even on the front cover and woven through the book, you can do lots and lots of same and different, and basically sorting and classifying. That's what this is all about. So I'm going to share a little bit about this book. What I love about this book is it's rhyming. And if you've taught in early years or Key Stage 1, it's an absolute joy because children love a story rhyme. And if we're thinking about remembering more, sometimes that rhyme helps. So let's have a little look. So I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to give you a flavour for it and you can see whether it would work for your children. So 10 little dinosaurs hatching from their eggs, blinking in the sunshine, stretching out their legs. Look, our mummy's sleeping. Let's go and explore. 10 little dinosaurs all say, and you can imagine, you need to say that once and the children are roaring and joining in with you. So even on this first page, here are our 10 little dinosaurs. We can be counting our 10 little dinosaurs and making sure there are 10. So 10 little dinosaurs walk in a line. And basically what happens in this book is a little mini disaster on each page to produce one fewer dinosaur. But I haven't met an early years or year 1, year 2 child who's bothered about that in the slightest. So 10 little dinosaurs walking in a line, stomp goes Diplodocus, now there are, and there's that wonderful opportunity for children to shout out 9 to you. And as you can see along the bottom, you've now got 9 dinosaurs. And right here is that 10th one on his foot. So next page. You can see the illustrations are beautiful. So even on each page, there's plenty to talk about. On these pages, you could be counting the flowers. You could be counting the number of petals on the flowers. You could be counting the little snails that you might not have spotted here, or how many leaves are on the page, or how many, it just goes on. Flowers here, toadstools, so much to count. 9 little dinosaurs think the world smells great. Slurp goes a hungry plant. Now there are 8. And the book continues in this way. And we go through. You can look at these wonderful diagrams, all in rhyme. I just want to take you to my favourite page. Let's get a feel for the book. It's beautiful, isn't it? Loads of things to count. Right, this is my favourite. This one causes mass hysteria, so be prepared for it. So 3 little dinosaurs trying to dodge the poo. Squish goes the steggy's tail. Now there are 2. So quite suited, the early years classroom, they love a bit of smelly, stinky poo conversation, don't they? So, this book is absolutely gorgeous. You've got counting back. You can all be counting back together. You've got the word 3. You've got 3 dinosaurs to count. We've got 1, 2, and you've got the third one there. And we've also got the numeral, the mark we make on paper. So we can be using all of that to help us. And what you could do is you could choose a number a day. And you could read the book as a whole at the beginning of the week if you feel your children would like to hear the whole story. And then you could pick a number of the day. I would be looking to get out lots of Small World, maybe some toy dinosaurs out and get them to actually act it out, all of that type of thing. matching, if you're in year 1, so matching the maths calculation to the page. So, actually, what have we actually done? Well, we haven't done 10 takeaway 1. We've done 4 takeaway 1. So the maths is quite straightforward, but we could be representing the maths that we do. And before you get upset and think it's going to all end in disaster, in true early years style, it's all going to be okay, because one little dinosaur, has he met his doom? What's that scary creature stomping through the gloom? And you've guessed it, it's his mum who's come to find him, and all the others too. You can see all the other dinosaurs back together. So we've got a nice little happy ending at the end of that. So, safe at home with mummy, who could ask for more? 10 little dinosaurs all say, and you can just imagine the children are. So it's quite an interactive book. You get some counting out loud. It might be that you have some pictures of dinosaurs around and you're counting back with numerals, the marks we make on paper written on it. It might be that you have 10 dinosaurs out and you take one away each time as you're going through the story, all types of things. But I think it works quite well for dinosaur-led activities, which are usually quite popular. Yeah, Sarah, it's a nice one, isn't it? Right, book 2. This is the speed I'm going at. Is that okay? I just thought you'd rather me do more and get through as many as possible. So, next one. Anyone seen this one before? Oh, Jason is kindly telling us that Amazon sell a 5-pack of that book with the other titles for $18.99. Thank you very much. Yes, John Classen. Rose loves John Classen. Oh, right. Well, this is, I'd like to think of this as my quirky contribution. So Mac Barnett is the writer and John Classen is the illustrator. And some of you might have recognized it just by his picture. This book is, again, suitable for early years and year 1 and for some year 2 children, I think. The main maths idea in this book is geometry. And it hasn't got a huge amount of content, but it's a beautiful book. So unlike the 10 Little Dinosaurs, where you might be able to get loads of activities through the week for each of the numbers, I would use this type of book as a supplement to some teaching on geometry, rather than teach geometry through this book. Okay, so it's one of those. What I love about this book is that it is completely different to the other books on the bookshelf. And whereas a lot of the other books have got bright colours and things like that, this just is a different book. So let me start showing it to you. It's quite a simple idea. So this story, and there's other ones in the series I should have said. So this book, there's a circle and a square as well. I think the triangle was the first one out, so I got the first one. So this is a triangle. So this is how simple this book is. This is Triangle's house. And there's Triangle inside. So, you start to notice quite quickly what Triangle's world is like. And this is Triangle in his house. And that is Triangle's door. So you can see the pictures are really muted. They're sort of browns and greys. There's no bright colour. But children really like it. And even on this page, I think there's some good opportunities. Can you see any of the triangles in the room? Look at Triangle's door. What shape is our door? Things like that. Can you find anything else that's got a triangle in? What do you think Square would have in their picture? Why do you think Triangle's got everything? Why is everything triangular in the Triangle's house? That type, there's loads of types of questions. So one day Triangle walked out of his door and away from his house, and he was going to play a sneaky trick on Square. Children find the humour of this book really funny. More so than adults perhaps, but yeah, they seem to find it's really funny. He's going to play a sneaky trick. It's not meant to be a dark book. It is meant to be a funny book. So, he's not a mean triangle. So an opportunity maybe to talk about other things. So we've got, he walked past small triangles, medium triangles and big triangles. So children could do a bit of sorting and classifying, not just with triangles, but which are the small ones, which are the medium ones, which are the big ones. He walked past shapes that weren't even triangles anymore. I'm just going to turn these over a little bit quicker. He walked until he got to a place where there were squares. And of course, this is where Square lives. Still thinking of his sneaky trick, he walked past big squares and medium squares and small squares until he got to Square's house. Now, said Triangle, I will play my sneaky trick. And at this point, I've stopped and said, what do you think triangle's sneaky trick is? And all this type of thing, see what the children come up with, which is normally nothing to do with being a triangle whatsoever, and it's just something completely random, but that's nice. And if you feel you need to, you can talk about how triangle's naughty for playing a sneaky trick. So, believe it or not, triangle's sneaky trick is really quite simple. Square is scared of snakes. That's the way it is. So triangle walks up and hisses, so you can get everybody to hiss like a snake outside Square's house. And because he was scared, oh me, oh my, said Square, go away, you snake, leave my door. Hiss, said Triangle, hiss, hiss, hiss. Oh dear, said Square, how many snakes are out there? 10 million, go away, snakes. And so Triangle was laughing so hard he couldn't hiss anymore. So then basically there's a chase, and the Square chases Triangle back to his house. I think Triangle's a boy. So Square chases him back, and he takes back the same route and goes past all the medium, the small and the larger shapes as discussed before, and they're just beautiful illustrations. And then he rushes right up to Triangle's house and tries to go right through his door, and what do you think is going to happen? Any ideas? What's going to happen when Square tries to go through Triangula's door? Any ideas in group chat? This is what we do with the kids, don't we? What do you think is going to happen? Yes, you're right. He is the wrong shape. He gets stuck. He can't get through. So there's a picture of him getting stuck, and there he is. He can't get through. So you are stuck. Triangle laughed and laughed. But it's going to backfire. And that's what's quite nice about this story. So Triangle was the sneaky one. Triangle started the trick, scared Square. Square comes to get Triangle back and gets stuck, but it backfires on Triangle. Then he stopped. The house was all dark. Triangle was afraid of the dark. It's too dark, said Triangle. You're blocking my light. Go away, you block. Leave my door. It was Square's turn to laugh. I know you're afraid of the dark. Now I've played a sneaky trick on you. You see, Triangle, this was my plan all day. Just finishes. But do you really believe him? So this is a very simple text, something quite different from the one I showed you. Not a lot of narrative, so you've got to play around with that, but some lovely pictures. And I could imagine that you could do some fantastic sponge print diagrams on characters here. And as soon as I start doing it, children start asking about where the other shapes are, and you can have lots of conversations about what you think they would look like. With my maths hat on, I have got one small issue, which is these are, this triangle is clearly not 2D and therefore isn't a triangle. But for the love of books and for the fact that we'd be working with children who are very young, I'm going to let that go. So I know that it might be a square-based pyramid actually, but I won't spoil the story. So that's my second Key Stage 1 book. Has anybody used this one before? Let me know in group chat. What do you think of it? Is it a goodie or is it just me that loves it? Let me know in group chat. Okay, so Rebecca hasn't seen it before, but she thinks it looks good. Right, let's go. Next one. Now this one you may be familiar with, so let me know in group chat if you've seen this absolute corker before. Can't do a maths workshop on story without talking about one is a snail, 10 is a crab. It's stunning. So if you haven't got that one, yeah, so quite a few people have seen it before. So maybe you can come up with some ideas in the chat and give us some ideas of how you've used it. It is brilliant. Ah, yes, Ruth, that's a good point, actually. She's talking about the triangle book. I would like it more if the triangles weren't always the right way up. So looking at them, yeah, that's true. You always have the apex at the top, don't you? That's a good point. I like that. Perhaps if you made triangles out of lollipop sticks and things, you could actually rotate the triangle. Right, 1 is a snail, 10 is a crab, a mathematical story, which is all about counting. So it is really well suited for year 2. It also works really well in year 1, and it can work in year 3 too. Some of the numbers get a bit more tricky for year 1 pupils, but we don't have to teach them all the activities from this book. We can just share the book. it is the best. So this is going to be a bit interactive. What I love about it is that it's massively interactive. I love the illustrations. And I think that the people who wrote it have really thought about the maths and tried to exemplify it in the best way they can. So if you know it and I ask you a question, don't give the answer. So this is a storybook and it's all about counting feet. And what the author does is attach something to the number. So on this occasion, 1 is a snail because a snail has 1 foot. Makes sense, doesn't it? And then 2 is a person because a person has 2 feet. So all of this is countable. We've got the numeral, the mark we make on paper. We can get the numicon out if we need to. We can stick the numicon there. We could show where 2 was on a number line or on 100 square. There's loads we can do. We could go really slow and say what else could be 2. There's just so much we can do. So 3 is a person and a snail. So you can see what's happening there. That's a really clever idea. So we're using that 2 plus 1, those labels we've already given, to help us with that. And then 4 is a dog, because the dog's got 4 feet. 5 is a dog and a snail. And 6 is an insect. So on group chat, what do we reckon 7 is? These are the sorts of things you'll be asking your children. What do you think 7 might be? So we've got an insect and a snail. That would make sense because we go back to the insect, the snail, which is the 1. And is an insect and a snail and an insect the same? It certainly is. Okay, so we got, it could be a dog and a person or an insect or a snail, starting to think a bit wider so you can see how much fun this would be. Well, on this occasion, 7 is an insect and a snail. So well done if you put that. Yeah, absolutely. How many combinations of this book. You can see the maths. I don't even need to explain it to you. It's really obvious. So 7 is an insect and a snail, and 8 is a spider. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because actually a lot of children will associate 8 with a spider. And 9 is a spider and a snail. So we're following that same pattern of adding 1 each time to the one that's just gone. And 10 is a crab. Crabs have 10 feet. The front 2 feet also have a second job as claws. And that means 20 is 2 crabs. So what's 30 then? Come on, over to you on group chat. What could 30 be? 10 is 1 crab, 20 is 2 crabs. What do you think 30 will be? 3 crabs, I love it. Yes, Rebecca, 5 insects, clever. 3 crabs from Jason. Loads of possibilities, aren't there? I bet your minds are spinning over. So this is a book that can definitely be done over a couple of days. You're not going to want to rush this. You're going to build these skills up. On this occasion, this is where it starts to get harder. It ramps up. Look, 30 is 3 crabs or 10 people and a crab. So at this point, we start to explore the different combinations that some of you spotted so much earlier. So this is why it could work in year 1 and year 2. This is why, it would work in year 3 as well, because you could be building up to it. And it might be on that day, you don't go any further than 30 and you start to look at all the different combinations of numbers that would equal 30. In this book, you've got addition, you've got counting, you've got multiplication opportunities, you've got looking at repeated addition. Absolutely loads you can do. You can be drawing bar models, pictures, representations, be using numicon to represent. It's absolutely wonderful. And the book carries on in a very similar way. So then we start to look at 40. And on this page, with the 40 page, what we've got is a fantastic opportunity to look at the equality of both pages. So different ways to make 40. We've got 4 lots of 10 and we've got 10 lots of 4, which is very, very handy indeed. So you can actually pull that page out, laminate it or whatever, put it out onto classrooms. Children can write all over the page and tell them what they see. You could get a balance out and check the maths is right. by putting 4 Numicon 10s on one side and 10 Numicon 4s on the other side, because Numicon is weighted, so you could be checking all that. You could write it as calculation sentences. You could ask them to do it another way and another way and another way and share all of those ideas. And the book carries on like that. So you've got 50 is 5 crabs or 10 dogs and a crab. You can see. Really beautiful. And the illustrations are fantastic. And what I like about this is all countable as well. So if you've got some children who still need to count, they can. And also you get, it really helps with the counting in tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all of that type of thing. So there's just so much you can do with it. You can look at it as repeated. You've got your 10 times table there as well. So 7, 10 times. So you get to practice that. Absolutely fabulous. 80 is 8 crabs or 10 spiders. I've worked with people before who've added pages to the book because children have come up with such nice ideas. So they've made like a little class book and they've used it, they've based it on this, but used different examples. If you've used it before, maybe put in group chat a really nice idea of how you might use it. 90 is 9 crabs or 10 spiders on a crab. And then we finally get to 100. So the biggest number we look at in this book is 100. And that's why it's particularly suitable for year 2, but also for year 3 and year 1. You could stop a little bit earlier. What I love about the finish is that it starts to touch on the efficiency of counting. And in my video about all the King's 10s, the book I showed you earlier, there's a really big focus on efficient counting and why counting in 10s or 100s is faster than counting in ones. And this kind of links with that same idea because so 100 is 10 crabs, or if you're counting really slow, 100 snails. So absolutely love it. It's one of those books that once you've discovered you can't live without. So there's so much you can do. If anybody has used it, please pop some ideas in the group chat so other people can see it. Right, let's look at the time. Okay, I've really got to speed up. I get very excited about maths books. Whiz through these Key Stage 2 ones. So this really is different again. So I've got quite a few different Key Stage 2 books, but I wanted to give you a bit of variety. So this is suitable for any year group in Key Stage 2, I would say. And Steve Jenkins has written a couple of books and I love all of them. And this one is a book all about measurement. So a lot of the time we find maths books with lots of number in it, but this is all about measure. The kind of maths that you would do around this will be, you could use it for conversion, you could use it for ordering, comparing. It looks at length, it looks at mass, it looks at height. It's a really exciting book. I absolutely love it and kids love this one. So if I read you the introduction, you get a feel for what the book's about. Have you ever looked at a giant squid in the eye? Have you ever shaken hands with a gorilla or been face to face with a tiger? All the animals in this book are shown at actual size, so you can see how you measure up to creatures both large and small. The title is Actual Size. Absolutely brilliant. So this first picture here is of an atlas moth, and that is the actual size of that moth, and it is so large it's often mistaken for a bird. And it gives you the little maths facts that go underneath it. So it's got a wingspan of 30 centimetres. And here is the smallest fish. The dwarf goby is the smallest fish in the world and it's 9 millimetres long. So what this book does is takes you through some wonderful examples of real life, or animals and creatures in real life, and relates it to us as human beings. So you could do some conversion around the measurements. You could do some scaling up and scaling down. How many of me is there in this huge animal? This is a giant squid. His eyes are 30 centimetres across, 30 centimetres. So children could use tape and work out how much 30 centimetres is and how far across their face it would go. They could make the eye and put it over their face. So much wow moments. And they're absolutely brilliant. So then we've got the Alaskan brown bear, which is the largest meat-eating animal, 4 metres tall. We've got all these facts, look. 4 metres tall and 770 kilograms. I like this one. So this is the largest land bird, which is an ostrich. That's the ostrich egg. Look at the size of that. And it goes through. This one is great for estimation, for example. So this is a giant anteater. And we are thinking about this giant anteater's tongue. Send me in group chat, how long do you think his tongue is based on what you can see? How long do you think this giant anteater's tongue is based on what you can see? We got 90 centimetres from Rebecca. Let's have a few more. 60 centimetres from Ruth, 70 from Jason. You're around the same sort of area, but I mean, that's a great thing to do with children, because finding an estimation of a curved line is so much more difficult. 65, 70, 80. Some of you forgot your centimetres, so I'm not accepting your answer. But this is actually 60 centimetres long. So I have some people out there having a personal celebration. But, you know, putting a piece of string on it or working out how are we actually going to measure the length of that? How would we do it? Problem solving around it. So, yeah, like I said, it goes right through. Oh, that might put a few of you off. Certainly put me off a bit. This tarantula is big enough to catch and eat birds. And its legs are 30 centimetres across. That's enough of that one. Some of the pages expand out as well. This is a saltwater crocodile, 7 meters long. So I think you've got the feel for it. For time purposes, I'm just going to whiz through. Look at these. These are a great white shark's teeth, up to 10 centimeters long. So you can imagine them getting a few of those out and putting them on their face. So if you need to do work on conversion, if you want to make some links to maybe science, if you want them to scale up an idea or maybe times it by 10 or 100 or 1,000, do some conversion, ordering, comparing, estimating. This book is amazing. And this last page is particularly nice, or one of the last pages, because it actually does a hand, and you can compare your human hand to the hand of a huge gorilla and a mouse lemur. And they use these examples because they both have hands similar to ours. So it keeps going with loads of examples. This is a foot of an African elephant. I mean, when do you get to experience the size of a foot of an African elephant if it's not in a book like this? I know schools that have made made this 3D using kitchen rolls and stuff. There's a prehistoric version if you're doing a dinosaurs topic. Thank you, Rose. That's fantastic to know. So a little bit at the back on info and facts about those animals. So an absolutely corker of a book. If you're doing anything on measures, something a little bit different, I would consider using actual size. Okay, now my session is due to close very shortly. If you have to leave, please do. I'm probably going to go a few minutes over just to show the last 2 books, but if you can't hang on, that's no problem at all. I will be recording it. I think that book would suit, probably particularly year 5, but probably any in the key stage. I think it depends what you're teaching. You don't have to teach it all. You could pick parts of it. Right, the next book, the 5th book I'm going to show you, is a real personal favourite. The Maths Quest series. Now, if you are the same age as me, well, I'm not going to give that away, you might have had these kind of books when you were a kid in the 80s. That gives it away a bit, doesn't it? One of my favourite books, or one of my favourite things, was firstly a Rubik's Cube that my parents bought me when I was a kid, and secondly, my books like this. These are, I think they were called like adventure books, and these are really different books which you have to solve a problem as you go along. I absolutely love them. This is a little bit more tricky, this Museum of Mysteries. It is part of a series. There's Cavern Clues, Mansion Mazes, and Planet Puzzles. And I bought them in a pack. I think I got them from Amazon on a pack. I would say that this book is probably more suited to 5 and 6. You could use it with year 4, but the thing is, if you use it with year 4, you just have to say some of them are teacher questions, and that's your bit to have a go. So Kelly said she's bought this series for her daughter, who didn't enjoy maths, to help her see that maths is fun. Yeah, and did she see it, Kelly? Did she agree by the end? The things this book covers, it's endless really. So we've got prime numbers, we've got square numbers, we've got Roman numerals, we've got ordering and comparing, we've got problem solving and reasoning, there's multiplication, there's just loads of it. What I might do with this is use it as a class book. And it might be that we read a little bit every day. And I'm just going to give you a feel for it. So when you go into the book, you start here at the beginning. And I'll read it to you just in case you can't see it. In the middle of the night, you were woken by a sound of a letter dropping through your letterbox. Burglars are trying to steal the golden hoard at the Museum of Mysteries. Come quickly, there isn't much time left. Now you're at the museum and locked inside, but you're not alone. Something is lurking in the shadows. You must solve the clues before the golden hoard, the greatest treasure of ancient times, is stolen forever. First, you must collect the mystery objects, then use them to solve your final puzzle. You will need nerves of steel. So what it has underneath, I'm hoping you can see that. If you are ready for the challenge, go to page 17 and look for the picture of the knight. If you're still not sure, go to page 15 and look at the coins, but no children at that point say they're not sure. So let me show you. So you go to page 17. You have to make sure that you use the right symbol. And here it is. You are standing in the main entrance hall. 4 corridors lead in different directions. You must choose which one to take. But look, there are muddy footprints leading down the corridor to the golden hoard. You see a flash of a torch. That's where the burglars have gone. Which part of the museum should you visit? And you get some options. And what I think would be nice with this, could you use, I don't think it's too young for years 7 and 8 at all, Ruth. I think that it's not too young at all. I think the maths idea is quite complex. What you then do perhaps is a class vote. Maybe children talk together, which direction should we go in? And the idea is that they come up with the answer and then you read on based on their answer. So I'm not going to follow this trail. I'm just going to quickly show you some examples of the types of questions we've got. So this one here, we've got a grid, and you could photocopy this or you could put it under a visualizer and children could see it. And it says you walk up to the net to take a closer look. Someone has written numbers on the wood behind. You can see them through the holes. They make a pattern, but some numbers are missing. What is special about them? And look, there is a note pinned to the net. So this note says, if the missing numbers are prime, then you must search inside the Viking purse. If the missing numbers are square, you must spy the Viking's eye. Now, personally, for most of these, when I've used it, I don't tell them the clue first. I'd actually give them that grid. What do you notice? What's missing? What type of numbers? What could we call those numbers? You can actually add a lot more meat into most of the activities by taking away the multiple choice idea. And then once they've decided what numbers are missing, then you could offer them the clue. And so we've got one over here where they have to order swords in order of date that they were made. We've got some nice problem solving with halving and doubling and sort of having to work out. Anyway, it's a book full of it, absolutely full of loads and loads of puzzles. And what's nice about it, if the children vote wrong, because you could either do like a class vote, then it actually explains what's wrong with it. And it does a little bit of maths teaching. So up here, for example, no, that's not the biggest number. You'll fail to enter the burial ground with this number. And it gives you a little bit of maths guidance about where you might have gone wrong. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have a visualizer, but I find it helpful. I mean, you could photocopy, you're not supposed to, are you, probably, but you could maybe copy a page. I think a visualizer, or scan it into your whiteboard. But I think this is a book that you need to lead from the front. I think it's really nice to do it as a class type of activity. And I think the idea with this really is that you don't try and squeeze it all into 1 week. This is just your ongoing maths challenge. Have we got 5 minutes? Let's carry on with our story. Right, last one. So I'm due to finish now. So if you do need to go, go. But I want to share my last story. And this is stunning. And actually what I've want to do with this one is just read you some of it because it's absolutely beautiful. And I think it's nice to finish on a story. So this book is called Infinity and Me, and it is based on the idea of infinity. And this is not just suitable for year 6 children. It's suitable for any children who are interested in big numbers and they've heard the word infinity. And Buzz Lightyear is definitely, a lot to answer for that. But this is a beautiful story about a little girl, and even you can see even like on the inside cover, absolutely stunning. So I'm going to read you a little bit and give you a feel of this because it's gorgeous. The night I got my red shoes, I couldn't wait to wear them to school. I was too excited to sleep, so I went outside and sat on the lawn. When I looked up, I shivered. The sky seemed so huge and cold. How many stars were in the sky? 1,000,000? 1,000,000,000? Maybe the number was as big as infinity. I started to feel very small. How could I even think about something as big as infinity? Look at these illustrations. It's just stunning. At school the next day, I asked my friend Charlie how he imagines infinity. That's easy, Uma, he says. It's a giant number that keeps growing bigger and bigger forever. I thought about trying to write that number down. Even if I lived forever, I wouldn't ever finish. I would never finish. And that's like a really good maths point there that they've made, even if you started writing for now. I went to get an ice cream after school with my best friend Samantha. Sam, I asked her, when you think about infinity, what do you see? I see infinity, the infinity symbol, she said. It looks kind of like an 8 that fell over and took a nap. If it were a racetrack, I'd drive around it forever. And Samantha made me feel a little better. Writing that symbol wouldn't take long at all. I traced a napping 8 in the dirt with my shoe. So the idea with this is she meets lots of different people who give her, she asks them what's their idea of infinity. Just a few questions. Somebody's just asked about, have I got a list? Somebody's answered the question that I was going to say. I would definitely head over to Math Through Stories, a fantastic website with loads of ideas on there. And year group for Infinity and me, I think I'm probably talking about Upper Key Stage 2, but if I had some year 4 children who are really excited about the idea of infinity, I might just share the book. I might not teach a week of math through it. This is nice. The grandmother thinks about infinity being a family. So you have your parents, and then your grandparents, and then your great-grandparents, and your family line goes on for infinity. And she likes that too. So yeah, she just goes around, she starts to think about, well, what would she like to do forever? If you could only do one thing, what would you want to do forever? And she thought she might like to have recess or playtime forever, but then she realizes that if it's only recess and there's no school or before or after, is it really recess? Can we call it that? She talks about a friend, her best friend, and how her best friend might not want her to be 8 forever, and so forth. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful book that covers the idea of infinity in a very simple way. So I totally recommend that. And it finishes really beautifully, because at the beginning the little girls are all caught up about her red shoes, and then she realizes that nobody had noticed her shoes, and she's actually quite upset. And she has dinner with her grandma, and she says, for dinner, Grandma made me my favourite meal, butter, chicken and rice. As she mixed the spices, she looked at me and said, Uma, I meant to tell you this morning, those are the most beautiful shoes I have ever seen. I didn't hear the rest of what Grandma said. I was too busy smiling. Right then I knew my love for her was as big as infinity. Ah, gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. So that is my whistle-stop tour of 6 of my sort of favourite, but I've got loads more, books. I really hope you found it useful. I hope you get stuck into using some of these in class. As I said, I've got a YouTube channel with some book videos on there, but also on my Facebook page you can get in touch. And if you've got any questions, please send them over now. But otherwise, have an absolutely fantastic maths week. Enjoy yourself. Let's get spending some money on these maths books, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them. Thanks for all your participation, everybody. Take care.